Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for organic Bible study that's fresh and delicious. And that's why we'd like to call this the Bible Bistro. Come on in. We're open for business today. Today we're looking at Psalm 75. This is where our dainties will come from today. And today we'll be having, for our dining pleasure, verses 3 and 4. So here the Lord speaks. Yesterday we had the worship leader. He stood up and he said, "We give thanks unto thee, O we give thanks." And then we have the Lord replying. Normally in an antiphonal situation, you would have the congregation replying to the worship leader. But here, this takes us to a new level. This must be something that has been heard in heaven. The Lord's now speaking. Perhaps what we have is not a psalm that's sung in the temple or in a congregation. Perhaps this psalm is sung in heaven. This is a part of the heavenly choir. So the worship leader in heaven speaks, then the Lord speaks, and we hear his voice thundering through the corridors of heaven, and he says, "When I shall receive the congregation, I will judge uprightly." That's verse 2. Here we come to verse 3 and 4 today. "The earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. I bear up the pillars of it. Selah. I said unto the fools, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked, lift not up the horn." Now that's verses 3 and 4, and when the Lord begins to speak, you'll notice how many of the first person pronouns we have here. He's taking this personally. He's speaking of himself. I will receive, I will judge, I will bear up. I said to the fools. So this is the Lord's voice, and he's speaking directly to us. He is the one, notice verse 3, that bears up the pillars of it. He's the one that receives the congregation. What congregation is that? That's the congregation of those who trust in him, those that believe in him. He says, I will judge uprightly, and of course he will. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? That was Abraham's question. And the answer, of course, the question is rhetorical, because the answer we already know. Yes, he will judge rightly. I will judge uprightly, he declares of himself. The earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. You see, that speaks of the end that will happen one day. All of us will one day be dissolved. We don't like to think about it, but it's going to happen to us. And one day, this earth and everyone in it will be dissolved. But look, verse 3, I bear up the pillars of it. The Lord is eternal. He is so strong, and he is so lasting, and he is so faithful that he bears up the pillars of the earth, even when all of it is dissolved. We have a Selah here, so we have this lovely little break right here between 3 and 4. And then we go from the Lord working globally to the Lord speaking locally. He's speaking locally to a fool. He said, I said unto the fools, deal not foolishly. So the fool is asked not to act like a fool. And to the wicked, lift not up the horn. Now here we come to a theme that we're going to find throughout the remainder of the psalm. This idea of the horn. The horn is the strength. It represents the authority or the power of a person or of a group of people. In this case, the wicked. And to the wicked, lift not up the horn. So the fool deals foolishly. That's his authority. That's his marker. We know him by that. The wicked lift up the horn, and we know them by their acts because they act wickedly. And that's their authority. So he's saying, don't do what you feel led naturally to do. Don't do it. Don't deal foolishly. Don't act wickedly. Don't lift up your horn. Don't, in pride, stand against the Lord and against his anointed, just like the leaders of the earth do in Psalm 2. So to the wicked, he says, don't lift up the horn. Unto the fools, deal not foolishly. So he's giving now instruction to those that he would judge. Well, tomorrow we'll find in verses 5 and 6, the Lord ends his speech, and then the worship leader comes back in verse 6 and begins speaking again. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.